Hello everyone, and thanks for listening today. This is the RX Daily Dose. Today's episode is being recorded for Monday, March 16th, and I'm your host, Ian Parnagoni. We update this podcast every week for healthcare providers, medical professionals, and anyone who has an interest in drug updates. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe on all your favorite podcast platforms and social media, including iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and Instagram. All links can be found in the show notes below. Today we'll be giving overview of new product approvals by the FDA, including Isturisa for Cushing's disease and added indications for Ofev for chronic fibrosing interstitial lung disease, and the combination of Opdivo and Vervoy for hepatocellular carcinoma. And we'll be giving our usual update on the novel coronavirus and flu season to date. The FDA this week approved Isturisa, which goes by brand name Isturisa, for adults with Cushing's disease who either cannot undergo pituitary gland surgery or have undergone the surgery but still have the disease. Cushing's disease is a rare disease in which the adrenal glands make too much of the hormone cortisol. Isturisa is the first FDA-approved drug to directly address this cortisol overproduction by blocking the enzyme known as 11-beta-hydroxylase and preventing cortisol synthesis. Cushing's disease is caused by a pituitary tumor that releases too much of a hormone called adrenocorticotropin, which stimulates the adrenal gland to produce an excessive amount of cortisol. The disease is most common among adults between the ages of 30 and 50, and it affects women 3 times more than men. Cushing's disease can cause significant health issues such as high blood pressure, obesity, type 2 diabetes, blood clots in the legs and lungs, bone loss and fractures, a weakened immune system, and depression. Patients may have thin arms and legs, a round red full face, increased fat around the neck, easy bruising, striae, which is purple stretch marks, and weak muscles. Isturisa's safety and effectiveness for treating Cushing's disease among adults was evaluated in a study of 137 adult patients, about 3/4 of which were women, with a mean age of 41 years. The majority of patients either had undergone pituitary surgery that did not cure Cushing's disease or were not surgical candidates. In the 24-week single-arm open-label period, all patients received a starting dose of 2 milligrams of Isturisa twice a day that could be increased every 2 weeks up to 30 milligrams twice a day. At the end of this 24-week period, about half of patients had cortisol levels within normal limits. After this point, 71 patients who did not need further dose increases and tolerated the drug for the last 12 weeks entered an 8-week double-blind randomized withdrawal study where they either received Isturisa or a placebo. At the end of this withdrawal period, 86% of patients receiving Isturisa maintained cortisol levels within normal limits, compared to 30% of patients taking the placebo. The most common side effects reported in the clinical trial for Isturisa were adrenal insufficiency, headache, vomiting, nausea, fatigue, and edema. Low cortisol levels, QT prolongation, elevations in adrenal hormone precursors, and androgens may also occur in people taking Isturisa. Isturisa is taken by mouth twice a day, in the morning and evening as directed by a healthcare provider. After treatment has started, a provider may reevaluate dosage depending upon the patient's response. Isturisa received orphan drug designation, which is a special status granted to a drug intended to treat a rare disease or condition. Isturisa is being manufactured by Novartis. The FDA also this week approved an added indication for nintedanib, which goes by brand name Ofev, to treat patients with chronic fibrosing interstitial lung diseases with a progressive phenotype. It is the first FDA-approved treatment for this group of fibrosing lung diseases that worsen over time. Chronic fibrosing ILD with a progressive phenotype encompasses a group of fibrotic lung diseases caused by different underlying diseases or conditions, including autoimmune ILD, hypersensitivity pneumonitis, and idiopathic nonspecific interstitial pneumonia. Characteristics of chronic fibrosing ILD include lung scarring and a rapid disease progression as assessed through worsening lung function tests, symptoms, and imaging. Progressive lung scarring leads to difficulty in breathing for patients and respiratory failure. Lung function declines over time among those patients and can be debilitating and life-threatening. Ofev's safety and effectiveness to treat chronic fibrosing ILD with a progressive phenotype in adults was evaluated in a randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled study of 663 adults. The mean age of patients was 66 years, with roughly an equal amount of male to female participants. The primary test for effectiveness was the forced vital capacity, which is a measure of lung function. It's defined as the amount of air that can be forcibly exhaled from the lungs after taking the deepest breath possible. In the 52-week period, patients received either 150 milligrams of Ofev twice a day or a placebo. After 52 weeks, people who received Ofev had less lung function decline compared to those on the placebo. The most common side effects reported in Ofev clinical trial were diarrhea, nausea, stomach pain, vomiting, liver problems, decreased appetite, headache, and weight loss. Ofev is not recommended for patients with moderate or severe liver impairment. Elevated liver enzymes and drug-induced liver injury and gastrointestinal disorders have all occurred among patients taking Ofev. It may also cause embryo-fetal toxicity that can result in fetal harm, arterial thromboembolic events, bleeding, and gastrointestinal perforation. Cytochrome P450 3A4, that's CYP3A4 inhibitor drugs, including ketoconazole and erythromycin, may increase Ofev exposure, and patients taking these inhibitors of CYP3A4 with Ofev should be closely monitored. Ofev received priority review designation, meaning the FDA plans to take action on the application within 6 months because the drug, when approved, would significantly improve the safety or effectiveness of treating, diagnosing, or preventing a serious condition. It also received breakthrough therapy designation, which is designed to expedite the development and review of certain drugs intended to treat a serious condition. Ofev was previously approved to treat idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis and to slow the rate of decline in pulmonary function among patients with ILD associated with systemic sclerosis or scleroderma. Ofev is manufactured by Boehringer Ingelheim. And finally this week, the FDA granted accelerated approval to the combination of nivolumab, which goes by brand name Opdivo, and ipilimumab, which goes by brand name Vervoy, for patients with hepatocellular carcinoma who have been previously treated with Nexavar. The efficacy of the combination was investigated in Cohort 4 of Checkmate 40, which is a multi-center, multiple-cohort, open-label trial conducted in patients with hepatocellular carcinoma who progressed on or were intolerant to Nexavar. A total of 49 patients received Opdivo 1 mg per kilogram in combination with Vervoy 3 mg per kilogram every 3 weeks for 4 doses, followed by single-agent Opdivo 240 mg every 2 weeks until disease progression or unacceptable toxicity. The main efficacy outcome measures were overall response rate and duration of response. Overall response rate was 33%, with 4 complete responses and 12 partial responses. Response duration ranged from 4 to 30 months, with 31% of responses lasting at least 24 months. The most common adverse reactions with Opdivo-Vervoy combination were consistent with the individual products. For hepatocellular carcinoma, the recommended dosage for Opdivo is 1 mg per kilogram, followed by Vervoy 3 mg per kilogram on the same day every 3 weeks for 4 doses, then Opdivo 240 mg every 2 weeks or 480 milligrams every 4 weeks. This indication was approved under accelerated approval based on overall response rate and duration of response. Continued approval for this indication may be contingent upon verification and description of clinical benefit in confirmatory trials. The FDA had previously granted breakthrough therapy designation for this indication, and the application received priority review. Both of these products are manufactured by Bristol Myers Squibb. And in the news this week, an update for you on influenza and coronavirus. For influenza this year, and in the US alone, the CDC now estimates that so far this season, there have been at least 36 million flu illnesses, 370,000 hospitalizations, and 22,000 deaths from the flu. 144 deaths have been reported in children. I put a link to the CDC weekly influenza tracker where you can get more detailed updates on the virus. For the coronavirus, and these numbers are as of Sunday, March 15th, the coronavirus death toll rose to 6,069, 3,199 of which are from China. And the number of confirmed infections rose to 162,652 worldwide, 80,849 from China. There are now 3,083 confirmed cases in the US and 2,870 deaths outside of China from the virus. Spain this week imposed similar measures to what Italy took last week and issued complete lockdown of the country. Citizens, except emergency personnel, will be able to leave their home only to buy food and drugs. Total cases in Italy surpassed 20,000 this week, and the country remains on lockdown as well. The United States this week declared a national emergency after the CDC stated that if no actions are taken with social distancing and limiting the spread of the virus, at least 160 million people in the U.S. could be infected with the virus before this is all said and done. Most states have declared their own states of emergency and are limiting large crowds. Most states anywhere between 200 to 500 people, they've canceled gatherings, and school systems have been closing sporadically as well. As with flu and any virus, the CDC states that social distancing is key to stop the spread of the disease. If you are sick, stay home, except if you need medical care, and make sure if you're sick, you separate yourself from other people and animals in your home. Make sure you call your provider before you visit. If you are sick, and only if you are sick, wear a face mask. Cover your cough and sneeze in your sleeve. Clean your hands often with soap and water or an alcohol-based sanitizer. Make sure you clean all high-touch surfaces in your home. I think we've all noticed too this week, the public has started getting into a mass panic of sorts. Store shelves have been emptied of disinfectant products, first aid supplies, cough and cold medication, bottled water, and for whatever reason, toilet paper as well. We'll keep you updated every week as things continue to evolve with the spread of the coronavirus, but for now, wash your hands as always, and make sure you distance yourself from others if you feel sick. And that's all I have for this week. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I'll include all links in the show notes below, so please go back and check those out too. Please connect with me on any of your social media platforms and give me feedback on what you heard today. I'd love to know what you thought about the episode. And as always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts. And thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Music by Joseph McDade.